Chicago, we need to have a conversation. And I promise you, it is not the conversation you think it is. All off-season long, every single headline, every radio show, and every debate about this Chicago Bears defense has circled back to one thing and one thing only. The pass rush, sacks, pressures, and game-wrecking edge rushers. Everybody wants to talk about whether Montez Sweat can hit double digits again, whether Austin Booker is about to become the next late-round breakout star, or whether this front office did enough in the draft and free agency to fix our pressure problem. Look, I get it. That conversation isn't completely wrong. Seeing a quarterback get slammed into the turf is exciting. It is sexy. It makes the highlight reels. But here is the twist that absolutely nobody is talking about. There is a dirty little secret hiding in plain sight right inside the stat sheet. A truth so uncomfortable that people are looking right past it. The truth is, the pass rush was never the biggest problem for the Chicago Bears. It was a distraction. It was a shiny object designed to keep your eyes away from the real wreckage. The true disease eating this defense alive from the inside out is something far less glamorous, far less talked about, and honestly far more dangerous. It is our run defense. And if Chicago doesn't fix it right now, it will not matter if we have prime pass rushers on the outside. It won't matter who is rushing the passer because opposing teams will never even have to throw the football against us. Stick with me, because we are about to break down exactly why this is the single biggest storyline of the Bears' 2026 season that the mainstream media is completely ignoring. Let us start with the cold, hard numbers. Because the history books tell a story that is honestly painful to lay out. Last season, this Bears defense finished with just 35 total sacks, landing them near the bottom 20 league-wide. They added 84 quarterback hits and a measly 66 tackles for loss, numbers that hovered dangerously close to the basement of the entire National Football League. That is bad football, no doubt about it. But here is the real gut punch. This is the statistic that should actually keep you awake at night, staring at the ceiling. Last year, Chicago's run defense surrendered a jaw-dropping 2,165 rushing yards on the season. Think about that number for a second. 2,165 yards. That is not just a talented defense having a rough couple of weeks. That is a defense that fundamentally could not stop a soul from running the football down their throats week after week, opponent after opponent. They allowed an average of 5 yards per carry. That was the fourth highest mark in the entire league. If you know anything about the game of football, you know that when an offense averages 5 yards every time they hand the ball off, they are winning before the play even starts. It means they are dictating the terms of physical engagement. To make matters worse, the Bears gave up 13 separate runs of 20 or more yards, and 4 massive plays that broke past the 40-yard mark. Those are not just bad plays. Those are soul-crushing, drive-defining, momentum-shifting disasters that broke the back of this team over and over again. Before we go any deeper into how we fix this crisis, I want to take a brief moment to ask for your support. We are pushing incredibly hard right now to hit our goal of 2,000 subscribers, and we cannot do it without you. The team behind Chicago Bears Voice puts an immense amount of hard work, sleepless nights, and pure dedication into producing deep-dive documentaries like this one. We don't just skim the surface, we grind through the tape to bring you the truth about our beloved team. Every single subscription we receive acts as a massive wave of motivation for us to keep pushing, keep creating, and keep delivering the content you deserve. If you love the Bears and you appreciate the grind we put in, please hit that subscribe button right now. Take 2 seconds to like this video, share it with another passionate fan, and drop a comment below. Let us build the strongest, most informed Bears community on the internet together. Now, let us ask the fundamental question that every real football mind should be asking right now. Why does a broken run defense matter so much more than a flashy pass rush? It matters because a broken run defense doesn't just hurt you on first down. It poisons literally everything else the defensive coordinator is trying to accomplish. Think about the chess match logically. If a team can consistently gash your front line for 4, 5, or 6 yards a carry on first and second down, they never have to face a third and long. They never have to put themselves in a position where they are forced to drop back and throw the ball against a pass rush that is teeing off. Instead, they stay completely on schedule. They run the clock, they control the tempo, they dominate time of possession, and they slowly suffocate your defense one manageable, exhausting carry at a time. That is exactly the nightmare that played out in Chicago last season. Opposing offensive coordinators stayed remarkably balanced against us. They didn't have to panic. They mixed in devastating play-action passes directly off those easy, wide-open running lanes. They avoided desperate passing situations entirely, and they kept our pass rushers completely neutralized. There was simply never a moment where the opposing offense had to abandon the running game and start chucking it downfield in obvious passing situations. You could hand this Chicago defense a prime Aaron Donald, a prime Von Miller, or any legendary pass rusher you can think of, and if the run defense stays this broken, none of it matters. Opposing offenses will simply refuse to ever put themselves in a spot where that pass rush gets to unleash its power. That is the uncomfortable truth hiding behind every single debate we have had this offseason. The disease isn't the lack of sacks. The disease is what is happening up front against the run, and it has been quietly rotting our potential from within. So where exactly does this infection start? It starts right up the middle, at the defensive tackle position. Here is something that might come as a surprise to a lot of people watching. The edge position actually is not the primary concern for the Bears. Montez Sweat is a legitimate, certified two-way weapon. He is someone who can hunt the quarterback and set a rock-solid edge against the run in the same breath, and that rare combination is exactly why he is worth every single penny. The real crisis is happening on the interior of that defensive line, and it is not because Chicago lacks bodies or numbers. The current roster includes names like Gervon Dexter, Grady Jarrett, Neville Gallimore, James Lynch, and rookie Jordan Vandenberg. On paper, there are plenty of players, plenty of size, and plenty of depth. But let us ask the uncomfortable question that nobody else in the media wants to answer honestly. Out of all of those names, who is actually an above-average interior defensive tackle in the National Football League today? Take a second. Really think about it. The honest, painful answer is nobody. Not a single player in that room graded out as an above-average run-stopping defensive tackle last season. Gervon Dexter, who is entering a pivotal developmental stretch, is the closest thing we have to a foundational piece, and even he landed right at the league average mark, not above it. And then we have to talk about Grady Jarrett. He was the man who was supposed to walk into this facility and be the steady veteran stabilizer this young defense desperately needed. Instead, his first year in Chicago was, to put it bluntly, a disappointment that nobody saw coming. A brutal knee injury cost him 3 games, and when he was on the field, he looked like a shell of himself. He finished the year with just 39 total tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 1.5 sacks, and 8 quarterback hits. For a player who signed a massive 3-year, $43.5 million contract fresh off a decade of absolute dominance in Atlanta, those numbers are jarring. This is a 2-time Pro Bowler, a second-team All-Pro. The excitement, the hype, and the belief that he would mentor Dexter and anchor this front simply fizzled out into thin air. But before you get completely depressed and feel like throwing your remote through the television screen, let us pump the brakes for a second. It is not all bad news in the Windy City. There is a genuine, data-backed case to be made that this defense could take a massive leap forward against the run, and it starts with something simple: size and raw depth. Chicago got noticeably bigger and heavier up front this offseason. Neville Gallimore comes into the mix standing at 6'2" and weighing 307 pounds. Gervon Dexter himself remains an absolute physical mountain at 6'6", 326 pounds. This is no longer a finesse group built just to shoot gaps. This is a group that finally possesses the raw physical tools to hold the point of attack, assuming their technique and consistency can finally catch up to their God-given size. Given how often the Bears got physically pushed off the ball and bullied backwards last season, that added bulk alone should help in a very meaningful way. Then there is the health angle with Grady Jarrett, and this might be the single biggest swing factor for this entire franchise. If the latest reports are accurate and he is genuinely trending toward full health, that changes the math completely. Nobody is asking Jarrett to turn back the clock to his prime Atlanta peak. We don't need him to be a superstar. What this defense needs is 80, maybe 85% of that player. We need a disciplined, steady veteran who commands double teams, plugs his assigned gaps, and frees up the flying linebackers behind him to make plays in space. If health really was the only anchor dragging him down last year, that is fantastic news. It means the talent never left him. It was just buried under an injury the entire time. It is not just the defensive line getting a much-needed infusion of talent either. The back seven of this defense got noticeably more athletic and faster this offseason. Chicago's linebacking core now features TJ Edwards, Devin Bush, and rookie Kasan Elliott, while the secondary added incredibly versatile pieces like Kobe Bryant and rookie Dylan Thigpen. Here is why that matters for run defense specifically. Stopping the run is never just about defensive tackles winning their individual one-on-one matchups. The edge defenders have to contain the outside and force the ball carrier back into the teeth of the defense. The linebackers have to read their keys and fit their gaps cleanly without overrunning the play. And the safeties have to fly down into the alley with perfect angles to prevent a modest 4-yard gain from turning into a back-breaking explosive play. Kobe Bryant brings real versatility and instincts to that safety spot, and Dylan Thigpen gives this defense a young, physical, downhill presence who loves to hit and support the run. If all of these pieces can communicate effectively alongside even a modest improvement from the big men up front, Chicago could suddenly look like a genuinely explosive, disruptive unit that leaves fans cheering instead of throwing their hands up in frustration. The pieces for tangible improvement are undeniably there. Now, this is the part of the documentary where we have to get completely real, because there are still legitimate, glaring reasons for concern that every Bears fan needs to hear before they get too excited. Reason number one, and it is a massive one, is that Chicago still does not possess a true bona fide difference maker at defensive tackle. Gervon Dexter has talent, real talent. Nobody is disputing that. But he has yet to prove he can be a consistently dominant force against the run at this elite level. His pass rushing ability is flashes of brilliance. He can get home and disrupt the pocket before occasionally fading into the background. But the real leap he needs to make this year isn't about padding his sack stats. It is about becoming a reliable, grueling, every-down run defender. If he can make that jump, he transforms from an average starter into an above-average pillar, and that is the version of Dexter that changes the entire trajectory of this franchise. Then there is the shadow of the Grady Jarrett age question hovering over this team like a dark cloud. He is 33 years old, with a lot of miles on his body. Reports of improved health are encouraging, but the harsh reality of the National Football League is that a player at his age and mileage is statistically far more likely to continue declining than to suddenly bounce back to elite form. Furthermore, while Gallimore adds valuable size to the rotation, he should be viewed as quality depth, not a savior. Jordan Vandenberg is an intriguing developmental prospect as a 6th-round rookie, and there is real reason to be excited about his long-term upside, but banking a total run defense turnaround on an unproven rookie is a massive gamble, not a guarantee. Behind him sits an undrafted rookie who might not even survive the final roster cuts, despite a solid college tape. That is an awful lot of question marks stacked on top of each other for a defense that desperately needs certainty, not just wishful thinking. The concerns don't stop at defensive tackle either. The edge group has its own structural fit issues against the run that deserve just as much scrutiny. Sweat remains the one edge defender you can trust completely on every single down. He is an elite two-way force. But look at the depth trailing behind him. One key rotational player is trying to bounce back from a torn Achilles after playing just 8 games last season, which is hardly a picture of ultimate reliability heading into a contract year. Another young player has flashed incredible pass-rushing juice and speed off the line. But he still has everything to prove when it comes to holding his ground when heavy offenses run directly at his side of the field. Here is the scary part. If opposing offensive coordinators figure out they can simply scheme their running plays completely away from Montez Sweat and attack everybody else in our edge rotation, that creates a massive structural problem that added defensive tackle weight cannot fix on its own. Finally, we have to talk about the classic chemistry risk that comes with any offseason featuring this much roster turnover. Chicago brought in new starters at safety, added rookies at linebacker, and welcomed a new veteran linebacker into the building, all in a matter of months. That kind of roster infusion absolutely raises our ceiling when it comes to pure speed and raw athletic talent. The coaching staff made it clear they wanted more speed on this defense, and they got it. But as we have painfully witnessed in the past, it takes real time for new pieces to fully internalize a complex defensive scheme. A single blown angle by a safety, a linebacker overrunning his assigned gap by a split second, or an edge defender losing outside contain for just a moment, and suddenly a routine 4-yard run explodes into a demoralizing 25-yard backbreaker. Those explosive plays were the single biggest killer of our team a year ago, and until these new faces are completely locked in, playing fast, and playing without a single shred of hesitation, that catastrophic risk does not simply disappear just because the roster looks better on a piece of paper. So who actually carries the immense weight of fixing this on their shoulders? Let us break down exactly who holds the keys to our success, starting at the very top of the list with Gervon Dexter. He is at the top for a very specific reason. If Dexter can transform into a consistent run stuffer, it solves an enormous chunk of Chicago's defensive problems in one fell swoop. He already possesses every single physical tool required to dominate. The size, the strength, the athleticism, and the natural football intelligence are all there. He is already a perfectly capable pass rusher, chipping in a reliable 5 or 6 sacks a year, which is great production for an interior lineman. But the version of Dexter this city truly needs isn't just a pass rush complement anymore. We need a floor setter. We need someone who wins his individual battles so cleanly on early downs that our defense is never forced into those desperate trailing situations. Last year, he was a base-level piece. This season, Chicago needs him to become the entire foundation of the front line. Next up is Grady Jarrett, and his assignment is simple on paper but incredibly critical in execution. Stay healthy, play smarter, and become the most stable version of himself possible. Nobody expects him to find a time machine and recreate his youngest seasons. We just need a stabilizing veteran presence who raises the floor of the entire room rather than being an unpredictable variable from week to week. Neville Gallimore has a massive job to do as well. He cannot just be a rotational body who soaks up snaps to give others a break. He needs to actually win his reps and physically shift the line of scrimmage, because quality snaps from Gallimore directly translate into a fresher, healthier starting unit down the grueling stretch of a long season. On the outside, Montez Sweat just needs to keep being the superstar he is, playing dominant, complete football on every single snap. But the other young edge pieces on this roster need to make the exact same leap that Sweat made years ago, transforming themselves from pure pass rush specialists into true, complete, 3-down defenders who refuse to be moved. Beyond the line, the linebackers carry a massive responsibility because they are the cleanup crew. They have to fill whatever the front line spills. If our linebackers are consistently late to the hole or getting caught on blocks, this run defense will stay broken no matter how much better the defensive tackles play. And in the secondary, the safety additions represent the ultimate line of defense. They are the difference between a play that leaks out for a modest gain and a play that ends in a soul-crushing touchdown. Running backs are going to break through the first level sometimes. That is the nature of modern football. But it is the safeties flying downhill with disciplined angles and flawless tackling technique who turn a scary moment into a minor gain. Here is the bottom line, and it is something worth shouting from the very top of the Sears Tower itself. Yes, the pass rush absolutely still needs to improve this season. Nobody is arguing against that. But if this defense can somehow climb from a bottom 5 run-stopping unit into something resembling a top 12 or top 14 team, that singular transformation would do more for Chicago's realistic championship aspirations than almost any other single improvement on this entire roster. If we can cut that brutal 5-yard per carry average down to 4 yards, the explosive plays dry up instantly. Third and long situations will start piling up week after week. And the pass rush that this front office has invested so much capital into will finally get to operate in the exact situations it was built for. It means fewer play-action shots beating a stretched thin secondary. It means more legitimate stress on opposing quarterbacks. It means more moments where our rushers get to pin their ears back and hunt instead of chasing a running back who is already 10 yards downfield and picking up a first down. We are not asking this defense to somehow transform into the 1985 Bears overnight. That is not realistic, and frankly, it is not what this team needs. But this franchise absolutely cannot continue to be a bottom-5 run defense for a second consecutive season and seriously call itself a true contender in a brutally competitive conference. The margin for error in this league is far too razor-thin, the opposing rosters are far too loaded with elite talent, and our explosive play problem is far too well documented to simply ignore heading into another campaign. So Chicago, here is the real question hanging over this entire offseason narrative. Is this finally the year Gervon Dexter transforms into a true foundational force? Is Grady Jarrett's health story the real deal, or is Father Time about to have the final, brutal word on a great career? Does this retooled secondary and linebacking core gel fast enough to eliminate the big plays that wrecked us a year ago? These are the questions that will ultimately define whether the Bears take a real, meaningful leap into legendary status this season, or whether we are all sitting here 12 months from now having this exact same conversation on repeat. Before we sign off, I want to remind you once again why we do this. The channel you are listening to, Chicago Bears Voice, is fueled entirely by your passion and your support. We spend days analyzing film, tracking data, and writing these scripts because we love this team just as much as you do. But it takes an immense amount of hard work and deep dedication to keep this channel running at this level. Every single subscription we get is a powerful reminder that our work matters to the fans, and it gives us the motivation to keep fighting for this community. If you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that button right now. Smash the like button, share this video with every single Bears fan in your life, and drop your honest takedown in the comments right now. Do you believe this run defense can turn the corner? Or are we bound to repeat history? Who carries the biggest responsibility? Dexter, Jarrett, or someone else? We read every single comment. Turn on that notification bell so you never miss a single breakdown. We will see you in the very next one. Bear down, Chicago. Bear down.